Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Matter of Opinion. I'm Walls P. Now, in honor of Mental Health Awareness Month, today's episode is going to focus on mental health. Now, to help me with this video, we got our lovely guest Tia,
Hello, everybody.
and today's episode is going to help people understand what mental health is and bring an awareness to it, how our environment can play a role in it, the stigma of mental health in itself, and some resources and steps to help people find the help they need. So, Miss Tia, would you like to tell everybody a little about yourself?
Absolutely. So let me just say, I'm not a licensed therapist. However, I do have 2 degrees in psychology, and I'm currently pursuing my doctorate in education, as well as working in higher education for the past 12 years.
All right, that's awesome. Awesome. Now, before we get started, I also want to tell Miss Tia, thank you for being on the show. And
Thank
for those of you who subscribe and follow the channel, you guys know Tia, comment on the comment, leave a lot of comments on the videos and support the channel. And I also want to tell her thank you for this lovely banner that we have here. She purchased it for the show. So I like to say thank you
You're welcome.
and thank you for your support.
Of course.
Now, the first question I have for you is what are the views of mental health and how do you feel it affect people in general, especially those of us in the Black community?
That's a loaded question. Well, first, let me just start off by saying there's a difference between mental health and then mental illness.
Okay.
So, your mental health, that's your overall, how do you think? How do you feel? Your emotions. But a mental illness is something different. So, if someone is, let's say, diagnosed with depression,
Hmm.
bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, things of that nature, that's when you start to fall into the line of a mental illness. But
Okay.
also, let me just point out that you can be experiencing poor mental health, but that's not necessarily a mental illness.
Okay. All
Um,
right.
and, mhm.
Now go on. Go on.
In terms of in our community, I do feel as though it's something that needs to be addressed and it's not talked about enough. One of
Hmm.
the things that I found interesting is that, and you can look at the National Institute of Health, African American teenagers are actually more likely to attempt suicide than our counterparts. So that's something that, again, I found very fascinating because, again, it's something that we don't talk about. And then,
Yeah.
especially depending on your culture,
Hmm.
to even say that you're depressed, it's almost like it's unheard of. And a lot of times, there are things that could have been addressed to avoid, things that are happening later in our life.
Hmm. Hmm.
But again, depending on your culture, is something that's unheard of.
Yeah, that's true. See, I didn't know there was a difference between mental health and mental illness. I thought it was all like lumped into one. I didn't know there was a distinguish between the difference of it because I thought if you was experiencing mental health, that means you have a mental health issue.
Mhm.
So yeah, that I'm glad bought that. I'm glad you basically educated me on that because a lot of us don't know that. Now,
Exactly. Yeah.
for me, I specifically like looked at mental health as a chemical imbalance and other things that play into it that are unresolved will basically give you a mental health issue. So, with chemical imbalance, with your environment, with stress, even people you keep in your circle,
Mm.
all those to me are basically what I basically look at as a mental health issue. Like, but the bottom line, I think for me was I think a chemical imbalance is the first thing that segues into a mental health.
No, and that's normal and that's fine. The other thing is that you mentioned was about, your friends, which is a very important thing that I think a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people don't discuss. The people that you hang around with
Mm-hmm.
can definitely play a role on your mental health, good or bad, which is why it's very important that at times you need to evaluate your circle. So, if you're with people who are constantly encouraging you to, to do whatever those bad things are, whatever those negative things are, to
Yeah.
engage in whatever those things are that's not going to benefit you,
Mm-hmm.
you need to evaluate your circle, step back a little bit, and either, go get help, depending on what the situation is, or have a different circle of friends,
Yeah, you're
start
right.
hanging out with different people to help you get to where it is that you need to be in life, because that can greatly change the trajectory of your life.
Oh yeah, because think about it. Even for a person who is not having a mental health, not going through a mental health issue or having trouble with mental health,
Yeah,
think about it. If you're around a person, if you're like in a chippy mood and you go around a person who's in a sulking mood, that can bring your mood down like dramatically.
absolutely.
So now imagine if you're suffering through a mental health situation, that just like makes it to the 10th power. It just exacerbated. You get
Absolutely.
what I'm
And
saying?
it's
So,
wonderful that you said that, because I had a situation, I want to say maybe recently, I guess you can say,
mhm,
where, I had to start to distance myself from, certain friends, because,
mhm,
how you have, and I'm pretty sure the ladies can attest to this, when you have that one friend that's constantly venting to you about their boyfriend, or constantly telling you about certain situations.
mhm.
And, you're all riled up, like, yeah, girl, you're right. You should
Yeah,
leave. And then you call them later on at night, like, hey, so is everything okay? And they're like, oh yeah, I'm with him now, or I'm on my way to go see him. You're like, well, wait a minute, weren't
yeah,
we just,
yeah,
but people fail to realize that to the person on the receiving end, it's venting, they're getting it off their chest, they were
yeah.
upset. But then to the friend that's listening, which is usually me,
Hmm.
it takes a lot, because the other thing is, I'm an empath. And
Okay.
what that is one of those people who takes on, the feelings and the emotions of other people. So
Hmm.
I can sense someone being in a bad mood or going through something without them even opening their mouth.
Yeah.
So it sucks, but I mean, at the same time, it's a great thing, because you're aware. And in my profession, I help people, so that definitely helps me. But when you're an empath, that can also be a bad thing, because
Mm.
then when you need time to unwind and relax, that's when we retreat in our shell for like a couple days, if not a
Yeah.
couple weeks. We don't
Yeah.
really talk on the phone, because we have to recharge and get back to our center.
Okay.
But yeah, definitely evaluate those circles.
All right. So, my next question for you is, how do you feel our environment play a well, do you feel our environment play a huge role in mental health?
Absolutely. Especially depending on your culture. Like, if
Hmm.
they don't believe in certain things, like I've had students come to me who would say, like, Miss T, I'm depressed. But when they went home and, they would tell their parents, it's like, oh, you're just being lazy. Oh, come
Hmm.
on, get up. You could, so that
Yeah.
can definitely play a role into it. And even if you aren't experiencing poor mental health or have a mental illness, if you're in a toxic environment, that can definitely play a role
Oh
in
yeah.
everything. It can play a role in your relationships,
Hmm.
play a role in how you raise your children. It can play a role in the types of friends that you have, the types of men or women that you choose. So it can definitely play a role in it. And believe it or not, depending on where you live, you
Hmm.
can also experience PTSD from the things that you've seen and experienced,
That's
which is
true.
something that a lot of people, especially our Black men, they don't talk about.
Yeah. See, for black men, especially, well, people in general, if you live in a impoverished area, like that environment can definitely play a role because
Absolutely.
because of the things that you see. And on top of that, when it comes to experiencing poor mental health and a lot of low income areas, what I notice is you get ostracized for going like suffering through poor mental health. So
Mm,
even if you say, hey, I need help or something like that, they'll either make jokes at you or laugh at you, things of that nature, and make you feel shameful for trying to seek that help.
absolutely.
So your environment definitely can play a role. So instead of you seeking help, you just let it bottle up inside, to now it becomes a mental health issue.
Absolutely. And
You know?
again, like you said, when you bottle it up inside, it can come out in other ways.
That's
So
true.
you'll see a lot of alcohol abuse,
Yeah.
even, people who excessively use marijuana. I know a
Mhm.
lot of people are very
Yeah.
defensive when you
Because
start to
they
talk about that.
Yep, they see it as a cheaper form of what's the word I'm looking for? Like a cheaper way of medication,
Absolutely.
you
And,
know?
the other thing is too, you bottle it up inside, then you get a lot of your, physical abuse in these
Mm-hmm.
relationships,
Mm-hmm.
child abuse, all of
Yeah.
those things. And it is very important. And that's something that needs to be addressed.
Oh yeah. But yeah, and hey, your environment can also play a positive role. Because if you got people who are supportive, care about your well-being, you keep positive people around you, those things can help you in a positive way.
Absolutely.
Especially if you got people who are supportive, like, hey, here are the resources that I found to help. Hey, maybe you should speak to somebody. Like, they're encouraging, behavior to seek that help. It makes it easier on you. It's like releasing a weight off your chest, because now you don't feel alone, with the
Absolutely.
fight that you have going on. So,
Absolutely. And one of the things that I feel works best for me
mhm.
in my profession is to do a trauma informed approach. And
Okay.
that's to let the students know, I'm here. So I'm not giving advice. I'm
Hmm.
not, judging them. I'm not doing any of that. I'm here for you.
And
Now, at the, mhm,
that's very important too, because when somebody feel you're not judging them, then that's when they're more open to you.
exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, sorry to cut you off, but go
No,
on.
no, it's fine. And the other thing is too, I always stress to my students, there is nothing, okay, that you can
Mhm.
say to me that I haven't heard, seen, or done.
Pretty
So,
much.
it also helps them to let them know, like, you can come to me, I'll be a listening ear. And depending on what it is that they say, at
Hmm.
the end of the conversation, if they say, okay, now, Miss T, what is it that I can do? Or Miss T, who can you direct me to? Or, whatever the case may
Yeah.
be, then that's when, okay, I'll direct them to different resources, or, I will put my 2 cents in. But for the most part, I would just encourage people to just listen, because a lot of times
Mhm.
people don't want advice. They want you to listen to actually understand them and
Yeah,
not so much respond, because sometimes when we do that, we get on the offense, or we may take it personally,
that's true.
and we take our own experiences into account, as opposed to, okay, let me just shut off all things. I'm giving you my undivided attention.
Hmm.
What is it that you need from me?
Yep.
And that's another thing too. Sometimes I'll ask people, okay, so at this point, what is it that you need of me? Because again, it doesn't have to be a mental illness. It could just be, I need to vent to you, or a person could be experiencing poor mental health. And
Hmm.
in some cases, they don't want to have to now go to another person and tell their story all over again.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's
true.
very good, like I said, if you just listen.
Yeah. And like I said, man, sometimes just getting it off your chest, that alone can alleviate a lot of the stress and tension in itself, and
Absolutely.
derail you from going to that path of it escalating to a mental health issue,
Absolutely.
you know? All right. So, good or bad, what do you feel is the stigma for seeking help for mental health?
There's something wrong with you. You're not normal.
Mm-hmm.
That's the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel as though that's why a lot of people avoid it, because by first of all, you have to acknowledge that it's a problem. And a lot of people don't want to do that.
Yeah.
One thing that I respect, the rap artist Roxanne Shante, she made a comment around the time DMX passed away, that it's the reason she never, drank or smoked, because she's afraid that she may find peace in it.
Yeah.
And when she said that, that was very powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
Mm-hmm.
and again, I don't know DMX situation personally, but from the things that I've read and that he has said on his own accord, I feel as though a lot of times our our young children, especially our men, go through things that they don't talk about.
Mm.
And unfortunately, they don't go seek help because, oh, there's something wrong with you. Oh, you're a man, suck it up. Oh, like we
That's
hear
true.
all of those
Yeah.
different things.
Yeah.
And even for us women, oh, you're strong. You can handle it. You can do this. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
no, but I need someone to lean on. I need someone to talk to. Who's going to be there for me?
Yeah.
So I feel like that's the biggest stigma when it comes to seeking help, which again is why I feel like so many people in our community turn to alcohol, they turn to marijuana,
Mm-hmm.
because they don't have anyone, or they feel as though they don't have anyone, and they're afraid to seek help because of not so much what the counselor may say, but
Mm-hmm.
because of how they'll be perceived.
That's true. See, me, I think what the biggest stigma for seeking help is people lacking awareness of mental health in itself.
Absolutely.
Because I remember I saw a video of this gentleman, white gentleman at work, who was beating himself
Yep,
over the head or whatever,
I
because
saw
he
that.
didn't do like something, he didn't do something right or something like that. And people was like, hey, I guarantee you, if you had punched him or something, he would snap out of it quick, this, that, and the third. Like they really looked at it as nothing was wrong with them, and it was just for show.
Yes.
And that's the problem.
Absolutely.
People look at things and just misdiagnose it and just say, oh, it's nothing wrong with you. Just like you said, oh, it's nothing wrong with you. Get up, stop acting a fool, or whatever the case may be. But
Absolutely.
I really think that's what exacerbate the situation with mental health nowadays. It's the unawareness from people who, like I said, aren't suffering through mental health, and that makes the person who is suffering just feel shunned and in a tight little space, and they have nowhere to turn to.
Absolutely.
So
And think
yeah.
about it. How many times have you seen, growing up or going down the street, whatever,
Hmm.
you've seen someone having a breakdown
Yeah.
or a meltdown, and
Yeah.
we assume, oh, he's drunk.
Yeah.
Oh, she's high.
Yeah.
No, she could
Yeah.
actually be going through something and actually could use emergency services right now.
Yeah.
So those are things that we also need to pay attention to.
Yep. Just like you could have a situation where a person is having a mental health issue and he probably say something wrong to a group of people or whatever. And next thing you know, they beat him up, whatever. Now he got a
Exactly.
concussion on top. There's so many things. But if you have the awareness of it, you'll understand, okay, this person isn't right. We gotta get him some help or something like that.
Absolutely.
And then on the flip side, what do you think happens if you corner uh, uh, um if you corner an animal? Not to say that people with mental health are animals, but if they feel like they're in a box and they're cornered and have no one to turn to for help,
Exactly.
what, like, they can lash out in any different way, and rage can be one of those ways. You get what
Absolutely.
I'm saying? So that's why I'm like, yeah, I think for us bringing awareness to people to identify people with mental health or mental health issues will definitely go a long way for fixing that bad stigma of having mental health or mental health issues is bad, so to speak.
Exactly.
you know
And even if there's nothing wrong, it's okay for you to speak to someone.
yeah.
When I used to be an EOF counselor, that's with the
Mhm.
Educational
Yeah.
Opportunity Fund program. Had to put that plug in. When I
Mhm.
was the EOF counselor, we used to encourage each other
Yeah.
to see a counselor because, in your profession, you're so used to meeting with a certain amount of students per day that,
Mhm.
again, when you're an empath like myself, you take on some of those things. So sometimes I'll go home and I'm still thinking about something a student said to me,
Yeah.
or I'm wondering why my mood is now changing. It's like, oh, wait a minute. It's because I'm still affected by something that someone else experienced. It
That's true.
happens, which
That's
is why
true.
it's good to talk to someone just so you can release those things and get your
Yeah.
positive energy back.
That's true. I agree 100%. So, segueing into the next question, what do you feel is a top stressor for men, Black men in particular?
I would probably say finances.
Hmm.
I would definitely say if it's not finances, again, going back to what we said about depending on their environment,
Hmm.
trying to survive, again, going back to those finances,
Yeah.
I feel like that's probably the biggest one for men because it affects different domains of their life.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
you see it all the time. They're uh, could be inundated with different things. So
Hmm.
they may turn to illegal activities
That's
so
true.
that way they can take care of their family. And let me just say this, I judge no one. So whatever someone may deem as acceptable as supporting their family, that's what they're doing. But I
Hmm.
do feel like finances is one of the biggest stressors.
See, I would have to say finances, and the second one, sad to say, I would say their relationship with their significant other.
Mm,
And the reason why I say relationship with their significant other is because it's like, the main thing I'll say is toxic masculinity.
mm,
Because for a man, you're expected to act a certain way, carry yourself a certain way. You're not supposed to be soft. You're supposed to be tough all the time. You can't vent. So it's like the minute you show a softer side, it's like, oh, you're weak, you're soft,
yep,
or you're acting like a woman. Man up for
yep,
every little thing. You get what I'm saying? So
absolutely.
those type of environments in a relationship where it's like, hey, I have to be hard all the time, that can exacerbate it also, because that's just adding more pressure. And not to mention, if there's pressure at work and,
Yes.
out, and when you're out and about, your environment at home should be your place of peace. So if you can't even have let your guard down at home, then it just exacerbate the situation that much more, because it's like, hey, you're supposed to be the one I count on, where I could actually let my guard down, and you're not allowing me to. You think of me as less of a man. And for Black men, they look for that support from their significant other,
Absolutely.
so
And
I
again,
think,
that's something that's not really talked about.
yeah, you're right.
For women, on the
Right.
other hand, it's like, yeah, all of this, we're in our feelings, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
okay for us to be emotional and express ourselves.
Yeah,
But you're absolutely right. And I think, for one thing, for me, I always ask, how are you feeling today?
yeah,
And I know it throws some people off, because it's like, what do you mean? But how are you feeling is not pertaining to, okay, are you sick or anything like
yeah,
that? It's a state of wellness.
yeah.
So you could be doing great, but if you're
Hmm.
feeling low, those are two different feelings.
That's
So
true.
absolutely, you definitely, especially when you're in a relationship on both
Hmm.
sides, you
Yeah,
definitely want to check
yeah,
each other to see how they're doing. Because here's the thing: sometimes we get caught up in being a mom, we get
yeah.
caught up in our jobs, we get caught up in so many different things that we don't take the time, to really ask, like, okay, how are you doing today? How are you feeling? Is there anything I can do to make
Hmm.
to make this better? Is there anything? We really don't do that. And I feel like, again, on both sides, and
Yeah.
I'm just pointing out women, I feel like on
Uh-huh.
both sides, we need to do that for each other.
But another thing too, I don't even think it's more so the fact that, you got the person gotta juggle this or juggle that. I just think it's more so an accepted behavior, depending on where your upbringing is that your significant other, when it comes to a woman and a man, that man is supposed to be hard, solid, and
Again, going back
all
to
the time.
culture,
You get what
yep,
I'm saying?
going
So that's
back to
why.
your
So
focus,
it's
absolutely.
not more so she's doing a bad job, but if
Yeah,
that's what she's everybody saw in their environment, then that's what they're gonna think. Because even the guy himself is probably thinking, yeah, she's making sure I stay tough, I stay a man. But in reality, it's actually hurting you.
yeah,
You see what I'm saying? So that's why I'm like, it's not more so she's doing a bad job or whatever the case may be. It's just that's what you grew up around. So you don't think that can exacerbate uh mental health. You get what I'm saying?
absolutely. I
So
definitely agree
yeah,
with you. It's funny because I saw a post today that someone had put up something about, I hate a crying man. What do you complain about today?
yeah,
Something
yeah,
of that
yeah,
nature.
yeah,
And I looked at it and I'm just like,
yeah,
mm, yeah, no, maybe
yeah. And
sensitive.
that's the thing. Once people see
Yeah,
that stuff, they think that's the norm. You get what I'm
exactly.
saying? So yeah,
Exactly. So
yeah,
yeah, that's why even with my son,
yeah,
he's 14 and I check in with him, especially with a lot of stuff. And that's another thing. With all the things that we saw about police brutality over the summer, I made sure that I checked in with my son to say, hey, how are you
yeah,
doing? Or
yeah,
even if he was playing the game, in the middle of that, chatting with his friends on
yeah.
PlayStation, I'm like, no, come here for a second. Let's talk.
Hmm.
What's going on? How does this make you feel? Especially with the incident of the 15-year-old boy, I believe he was, that was shot and killed in Chicago. He came to me actually and was like, Mom,
Oh,
did you
okay.
hear about this? And we talked about it because I
Oh
want to
wow.
have that
Hmm.
open dialogue
Hmm.
just to see. And again, just listening, not
Yeah.
giving my opinion, not telling him, oh, yeah, well, this is what I read. No, I want to listen to what he had to say to see how he's
Hmm.
processing this information.
And
So I want him to know it's okay if you feel scared. It's
yep.
okay if you're a little uneasy and anxious when you see a police officer. It's okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk through these feelings so that
Hmm.
way, it can ease it can ease your anxiety.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. And that's good too, because it sets the trend early of, hey, it's okay to speak, talk your feelings out. There's
absolutely,
nothing wrong with it, you
absolutely. And
know?
people fail to realize, especially in a single parent home, a toxic mom or dad can
Hmm.
have just as much, if not a greater impact than an absentee parent.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah,
So it's
definitely.
very important that we check in with our children and see
Hmm.
how they're doing, make sure they're okay. It's more to raising kids than just Jordans.
Yeah, you're right.
And
You're right
the other
about
thing
that.
is too, and when I say Jordans, I'm speaking in general because I
Yeah, because
notice a lot of people feel like, oh, well, I put a roof over your head. oh, I gave you money.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm giving you this, this, and that. That should be sufficient.
Yep.
No, there's more
Or
to
even it's more so, hey, I buy them things so they can stay out of my way. Like, hey, I'll buy them games so they can stay
absolutely.
out of my way and stuff. I don't really gotta play like my son all the time. Hey, dad, can you play with me? If I have the time to do so, I'll play with him a bit. But
Good.
if I have things I gotta do, I'm like, I'll play with you later or whatever. But I make sure I at least every once in a while here and there I get the gaming with them. Or if I'm gonna do something with fitness or something, I'm like, hey, come
Yeah.
on, get involved. You get what I'm saying? So make
And
them
it's
feel
important that you
involved.
said that, even about the fitness with them
Yeah,
being, I call it the virtual year
yeah,
because of the pandemic. I'll even tell my son, like, come on, let's do a half an hour together. Come
yeah,
on, let's go for a walk. Come on, let's
exactly,
do this, to get them out
exactly.
the house because they're already stuck in front of the computer playing the game.
Hmm.
But now to be playing a game and then those 6 to 8 hours they're in school, like that's a lot,
Yep.
that's a lot for us.
Yeah.
So we need that break, which is also important going into social media.
Yep.
I think that that's another thing I encourage people to do is to take social media breaks every now and
Yes.
again
Yes. Yes.
because it can be overwhelming,
Hmm.
whether it's a police shooting or it's something else that's going on. And, when people have life events, they're getting married, they're having children, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But depending on where that person is in their life, it can interpret something else.
Hmm.
It can
I
come
agree.
off, you know what I mean? So
Yeah, I agree.
everyone doesn't always have the best intentions at heart.
Yeah.
If you're looking at
That's
something
true.
with a jealous mind, of
Yeah.
course you're going to feel attacked. Of course you're going
Hmm.
to start to look at the, inadequacies in your own situation. So
I
that's why I
agree.
tell people take those social media breaks. It's okay. Instagram is not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Facebook will still
Yeah.
be there. Take
Yep.
those breaks, go for a walk, read a book, exercise, do something else to stimulate your mind for that time.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Well said. Well said. Couldn't agree with you more. All right. So to segue into the end here, my question for you is, which I'm pretty sure you have experience in,
Mhm.
how, in your opinion, how do one go about finding resources and steps to help with mental health?
Well, number one, Google is your friend.
Okay.
You can pretty much Google anything and it'll
Hmm.
come up. You could type in Black therapist near me. You could type in, male psychologist in,
Hmm.
New York. You could type whatever it is.
Yeah.
The other thing is you can also go to your nearest hospital,
Uh-huh.
depending on the situation.
Uh-huh.
And also go to your own doctor and
Hmm.
ask for a referral. They may have, because of course your doctor is experienced with you and your situation. They may be able to direct you to someone, in their directory who can better assist you for whatever it
Hmm.
is you're going through. The other thing is certain universities even have it where, it's open to the public for them to come in to seek services, or
Hmm.
maybe they can also refer you to, the nearest place that may be able to assist you. The other thing is there's always 24-hour helplines,
Hmm.
whether it's suicide prevention or something else. I would encourage people to do. And the great thing about the pandemic, well, one of the great things about the pandemic
Yeah,
is that it caused a lot of people to take advantage of technology. So
that's true.
nowadays you can find, not only can you find a therapist, but you can also have sessions with them via Zoom. You could talk to someone
Exactly.
over the phone. You can even text someone or
Yeah.
text a number and someone will respond back to you.
Hmm.
So sometimes, because I've met people like this, they don't want to say what it is out loud.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah.
Because when
Yep.
they say it out loud, then it's real.
Yeah. I
So
agree.
whatever your situation is, there is a counselor that's out there who can assist you.
I agree. I agree. And for me, I would say some of the resources, if you can't like, if it's hard for you to access them things, hey, your diet can help with
Oh,
your
yes,
balancing your chemicals and even working out to help flush out those
absolutely.
toxins. Those two things, because you can be feeling bad or crappy or anything like that.
Mhm.
And you work out after that workout, you're like, geez, I needed that. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So, or even like going to the spa to help decompress, that right there can go a long way on helping you with your mental health and basically getting all that negativity out of you, which goes a long way, believe it or not. So
Absolutely. And even when we say exercise, it doesn't have
mhm.
to be a typical going to the gym. You
Yeah,
know,
it
like
could
I'm one of those
walk.
people. As soon as I step foot in the gym, do the weights, okay, I'm yawning, I'm over it. But
Yeah.
I found other ways, whether it's going for a walk,
Mm-hmm.
or taking a dance class,
Yeah,
or
exactly.
whatever it may be that's going to help you. Spend time with positive people.
Mm-hmm.
Again, evaluate that circle, and you don't always have to talk to someone. And the other thing too, I wanted to point out is every time you have, you experience poor mental health, you don't
Yeah,
always have to go to a counselor.
that's
Sometimes
true.
there's other things, like you said, that you can do that
Mm-hmm.
can also put you in a better mood. But if it's consistent and persistent, you want to make sure that you do talk to a
Yeah,
professional, because
yeah,
they'll be able to assist you in ways that your friends can't.
that's true. I agree 100%. Hey, this was a very good episode. I learned a lot. I hope the viewers, I hope this also help you, and hope it bring awareness and sit back and look at situations differently. If you see somebody, acting irrational or something like that, because another thing I'll add too is if there was more mental health awareness, it would probably make police handle situations differently
Mm,
when they approach a person with mental health. And the reason why I say that is because 9 times out of 10, with somebody who has mental health that police engage, somebody called.
absolutely.
So if somebody who's in the area can identify and have awareness of mental health or mental health issues, once
Absolutely.
they put that call in for 911, they can let 911 know, hey, I think this guy may have a mental health issue. So, be cautious with however you handle it, whatever. So at least the cop that arrives there have some kind of prior knowledge and have a different mentality of how to assess the situation. You could bring tranquilizers or, however you could handle it. But yeah,
Absolutely. I
uh,
definitely agree with you.
so, yeah, man, I hope this brought mental health awareness to everybody. And hey, you got anything that you got to add to the video to it before we close up shop here?
Just to encourage everyone to, think positively, do whatever it is that you can to put yourself in a positive space, especially with the pandemic and the
Mm-hmm.
uncertainty that has been going on. I know it's stressful.
Yeah,
People losing their jobs, experiencing food insecurity, and the uncertainty of what may happen. I understand and I get it, but just know that there are people here who want to assist you, who want to direct you to the resources to put you in a better situation. But you have to seek the services. They're out there. Believe it or not, there are a lot of free services that are out there, even if it's just the first consultation. There are services out there for you, even going into a church, even if you're not a member of the church. If you stop in, I have yet to hear of anyone who had turned someone away because
yeah,
they said, I'm not
that's
feeling
true.
myself today, or I need
That's,
help.
I agree.
So please, let's abolish the stigma. Let's do what it is that we need to do to put ourselves in a better space, because at the end of the day, it's affecting our children, it's affecting our community,
Mm-hmm.
and it's affecting our outcomes. So yeah, I just want to make sure everyone is in a positive space, get those services that you need, and the summer is right around the corner.
Yeah.
Restrictions are lifted. Let's get
Yeah.
out there, go to
Yep.
the beach, go for that walk, whatever it may be. I
Mm-hmm.
just want to wish everyone, positive vibes through the video.
Yep. Well, before we close off, I just want Miss Tia to have that same energy when we have this debate about the Godfather, Kevin Samuels. So stay tuned for that, everybody.
Oh, you just had to throw that in there, huh? I told you we
stay,
need a part two, because I know your viewers are gonna rip me to shreds.
so stay tuned for that video, everybody. I had to throw the joke in there to get some laughter and everything going on. So that's gonna do it for this episode of Matter of Opinion. Again, I like to thank you, Miss Tia, for being on the show, and
Perfect.
helping
Hopefully it's not
bring
the last.
awareness. You said what?
Hopefully it's not the last
Nah, it's
time.
not. Definitely not. Definitely not. That's gonna do it for this episode. Hey, those who are subscribed, I appreciate the support, and those who aren't subscribed, hey, hit that subscribe button and click that notification bell so this way you can be alerted for content like this. And definitely smash that like button. Catch you guys on the next one. Peace. It's a matter of opinion.